You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. Artie Tobia is a singer-songwriter from New York and comes from a deep pedigree of music. In fact, his great-grandfather played with John Philip Sousa. Artie commented once, "Music is in my DNA. It just became what I do." On this edition of Americana Music Profiles, we talk to Artie about his latest 13-song CD, Driven. Hi, Artie. Welcome to the podcast today.
Hello. How are you?
Good, man. Good to catch up with you here again.
Yeah.
It's been, maybe a year or so since we've talked. Has it been 2 years, maybe?
I want to say it might be 3 years.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
I think it's funny. Listen, the older you get, time goes faster.
I hear you, man.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
I'd like to say it was only 6 months ago, but I'm going to say I think it might have been 3 years ago.
It might have been because I just kind of looking back over some of my notes from when we chatted last time. I actually do in my cluttered office. I can find things like that from time to time, and. I think we were talking about your last album, which was Aberdeen, and I think that came out in 2015, right?
That did. That's it. I just don't remember where. But either way, I guess there's only a month and a half left of 18, so it's got to be 3 years.
Yeah, wow.
It's not just over.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks to social media, we've been able to keep in touch, so it doesn't feel like that long.
Yeah. Well, listen, you are far more talented and skilled with your social media than I, and I frequently appreciate the things that you put up there that are just random, maybe music related, maybe just life related.
Yeah, good.
But I do connect to a lot of them, and I try and observe that and go, that's cool, and I should be doing that too, but I never do. I fall into the victimized trap of being a artist who posts,
Yeah.
When my next show is, and what else I have going on.
Sure.
I'm a victim of that. I realize I have to change it.
Well, I'm as much a consumer as I am a contributor, so I understand that. But in either case, I'm glad we stay in touch, and I'm glad I stay in touch with everybody, and it's good to reconnect in this way. And for those listeners that are completely confused now and don't know what we're talking about, I'm talking to Artie Tobia, and we last spoke apparently about 3 years ago about your CD Aberdeen, and so you've got all kinds of musical history, and so for those folks who don't know you, let's bring them up to speed and tell me a little bit about your roots, and I think you had a great-grandfather maybe that's got some brush with musical fame. Is that right?
Yes. It's a funny thing. I've only recently brought that out, but it's a truth, and a truth that I realize not everybody gets to say, which is, my musical DNA includes my great-grandfather who toured the world with John Philip Sousa. Yeah,
that is so cool.
It is cool, and I've scoured the internet to see if I could ever find it. Yeah, I have photos. My mother at one point had given me a bunch of stuff of his photographs and things like that, and some other related items to his musical life. In photographs or flyers or brochures. He apparently did a lot of advertising for certain instruments.
Okay.
And what's crazy about that? I mean, this is in the early 1900s,
right?
But man, he was endorsing this instrument, and then you'd see another ad that no, this is the best instrument, the same instrument but a different maker.
Wow,
and
that's cool.
He was an early musical entrepreneur, as far as I could see. Endorsing instruments and maybe making a little extra money on the side and doing it.
Yeah. So
but kind of a cool piece.
Yeah, and obviously you didn't get to meet him personally, but that DNA kind of rolled down the gene pool and caught you pretty early, right?
Yeah. So so the next generation, my grandfather and all of his brothers and siblings, including his sisters, they all played instruments, and they all, a lot of the brothers made a living as musicians, which, to be very honest with you, my grandfather died in 1972. I was a little kid. I was unaware of the fact that until my grandfather died, he was a working musician in addition to a day job. But
wow.
he did a whole, he was a bass player.
Yeah.
And I did not know that of him. But I did know about his brothers, my great uncles, who were still alive as I got older and lived long, long lives into their 90s. And they were doing it. And then, and then I guess the generation, my parents' generation, then like none of those kids really got into playing too much. And then I kind of pick it up and I'm playing music. And I got a cousin of mine from the same side of the family. He's a pretty well-known actor. And so he's on the creative side. So he and I get a lot of conversation together, you know.
So when did the music bug get a hold of you?
Well, you know, I want to say I always had an interest in music. I have a very odd memory of being like probably 7, like first or second grade. And there was some music class we were in, and it was some popular song of the day. I forget what it was now, but I got up there with another kid, and we kind of like sang along and, you know, did this whole thing. And I remember walking back to my seat, and a kid, boy or girl, I couldn't tell you, and he or she said, "You're really good. You should be a musician." And my answer was, "I can't. I don't play an instrument."
Oh, okay.
And I remember that. Like, I remember that moment clear as day. And my next thing would be when I was probably about 10, I used to live in a place where I had to cut across the schoolyard property to get to my friend's house, and I'd cross this big field, kind of always covered in dandelions in the summertime, you know. And I can remember crossing that field, and I wrote my first song when I was like 10 called "The Birds." I remember it, you know. And it's just simple. I hear the birds singing, I hear the birds chirping, I hear the birds singing over my head, something like that, flying over my head, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's my first memory of writing a song. Then I kind of became dormant with the whole interest, and I became an athlete, and, you know, pursued that as a pursuit in life, you know. And then when that all ended, I kind of was like, well, I need a team, and somehow a band seemed to be a good idea. And some friends of mine who asked me at one point earlier when we were still in high school, "Hey, do you sing? Can you sing?" And I was like, I knew I could sing, but I didn't know how well. But I could sing. I wasn't singing in front of anybody. And so I passed. And then like a year and a half later, that opportunity presented itself again, and I was like, yeah, I think I can sing. And, you know, that was like 30-something years ago.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. Huh.
And so, you know, that's how I got there. I you know, those couple of moments strung together over time, and then that opportunity, and then, you know, it just started there, and I've never really looked back, you know.
So has this been a professional career for you kind of from that moment forward? Was there
Well, no, I'm going to say early on, I kind of, you know, I really dabbled for a number of years, just being in a cover band, and, you know, not too long. I mean, maybe 3 or 4 years. I did really just cover music, and you know, I was doing a lot of Southern rock, a lot of blues, you know, some Stones, Clapton, Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, like all that kind of stuff. And in fact, my guitar player one time booked us into a heavy metal club.
Wow.
And we were the only, and he found out that the owner loved Southern rock. So he told, we're a Southern rock band.
Oh,
and
man.
the guy booked us into this place. And we literally were playing like these hair bands, and then we'd come out like in jeans and flannel shirts. And it was like the first time I played there was like a moment out of like Animal House where like we came out and like the whole room stopped and looked at us, you know. And then it only took for as long as we started playing and we got to a good guitar solo, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, these guys are cool.
Yeah.
You know, but a classic moment, like, you know, the hair bands with the spandex and the, you know, all the hair and the crazy stuff and air, fist pumps in the air, and then we come out in flannel shirts and jeans and work boots and, you know, whatever. And so, you know, so I mean, you know, it was, I kind of weaned myself off of that, and then I had my first original project, like in the, you know, after that, you know, and then it kind of just slowly took, and then at some point, you know what the big change was? I said, you know what? to treat this like a business.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I made the shift to treating my music as a business and not a hobby, I was no longer a weekend warrior. I was no longer doing this as something like, look at me, I'm in a band. I realized for me it was something more than that at that point. And so, I took a much more strategic, business-like approach to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And, we went from playing 12 nights a year to playing 50 or 60 nights a year to playing 100 nights a year to playing 200 nights a year, and I've been doing that for the last 22 years.
Wow, that's a lot of time on the road and on the stage too.
Yeah. Well, I always kind of laugh. I say to people, I said, I've performed more nights than Elvis Presley did. Which is a truth, of course.
Right.
His was on a much grander scale.
Sure. Yeah.
But he wasn't carrying his equipment in and out 90% of the time.
Right. Yeah.
But but it is a truth. It is a truth. I have logged a lot of shows, over the years, and shows, big, small, insignificant, irrelevant, great, fabulous, fun. All sorts of varieties of what I do. But
So the last album was your fourth, and we mentioned that earlier, Aberdeen, and that kind of looked like it changed the landscape for you a little bit. You had some success and kind of put you in a different position. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, no, that's the truth, man. I'll tell you what. The mistake I made with the first two records, which I know is a common mistake, is like I made the record, had no money left over, had no plan, had no strategy, had no, nothing other than I made a record, and I think I might have still been, I might have still been in the mode of thinking, I'll make the record and I'll be discovered,
Yeah.
And, I didn't realize there was more to it at that point.
Yeah.
And then, so by the time we got to the third album, which was Chase the Sun, had a little bit different attitude with that, a little more strategy. Well, not a little more. I had a strategy. It got me some success. Aberdeen, I had a much different strategy. I had learned a few things, and part of that is, it's a business. And so any successful business, you invest your money back into the business, which I hadn't been doing previously. And so, Aberdeen saw some success. We charted on 3 different charts. It got picked as a CD of the month out in LA, I think, or San Francisco. Got featured in a few different spots here. And honestly, charting at this point, it's nice to talk about, but I can't afford to get into the top 5, and there's a lot of reasons that still goes on, but
sure.
Bottom line is I didn't have the budget to really push it further.
Yeah.
And the reality is though I get to you still get to say you charted, and what that did do was it opened up doors for other opportunities, because all of a sudden people are going, oh, this guy's a charting artist. Oh, okay. He must be good. And it was almost as though you didn't need to be vetted as hard as if you weren't a charting artist.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
And so I had some nice opportunities as a result of that. I got to share the stage with some notable artists, and and I see it as a foundation for where I'm at now with the new record,
Yeah. I read where you got to work with Tanya Tucker and Dr. John in Kansas. That must have been Kansas, especially. Yeah, I'm a child of the '70s, so Kansas was that cool, epic band.
How cool do you think it was? You stand there going, "Carry on, my way."
Right.
You're going, "Oh my God, man! Like I can't believe it."
Yeah.
And they were nice guys too.
Yeah.
They were nice guys, very affable, and receptive and warm. And, I've been fortunate to open up for a lot of people, and with the exception of only 2, everybody has always been, I would say, varying degrees of nice.
Yeah.
Just 2 of them were kind of like, oh, really? But
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Sure.
I'm not that hung up on it. I'm not that delicate that I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But all great experiences. And, Dr. John called me some, Dr. John, he just had open hearts, or had a bypass or a pacemaker put out, some heart issue. And I'll tell you what, man, here he is. And he's like, for me, I'm like going, this is Dr. John.
Yeah, yeah.
John, you know?